Right now we're going to have Dan Hopkins from Bank of America and Yin Lee from Nina, who are going to talk about their approach to marketing mix modeling.
Hey, thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you very much to the ARF for putting on this great event. I've been lucky enough to be here for the last 5 years or so, and I'm always very, very impressed by the presentations, the talent, and honestly, the progress that's being made in advertising research year after year. And it's an absolute honor to be here today, and I hope that you guys enjoy this presentation as much as I've enjoyed the presentations that I've seen so far. What Yin and I are going to be presenting today is the value of the brand, long and short. And just to give you a really brief summary of what we'll be discussing today, we'll be looking at how Bank of America has adopted a new model for building brand health. And then more specifically, we really want to focus in on how we've developed a quantitative assessment tool, really an adapted media mix modeling tool, to really detail the successes that we've had and seen from this new brand strategy. So what is that strategy? Well, at Bank of America, we believe that building a strong brand today really requires a fundamental shift in business strategy. A firm needs to no longer be focused on pushing products out the door or being organized around pushing products out the door. Really, firms need to shift to being designed to serve the customer and then really focus on their needs and their experiences. And that requires a couple things. It requires that products are sold, like a knowledge of knowing that products are sold because they solve a customer problem or they fill a customer's need. So for like a startup, it's very easy to, for them it's second nature. From the very beginning, when they're taught to develop their business models, it's all about focusing on the customer need. But for larger organizations, sometimes we get very caught up in trying to detail what the production process is and making sure that we're efficient with the production process. And when we do that, sometimes we lose that intimate connection, that human connection with customers. And really, that's not enough. Like, we need to be both efficient and we need to really be able to maintain that connection. Secondly, we need to shift the focus from product profitability to really customer profitability. And what that means is it's really a short-term, long-term view. It's very easy for us in the business to really fall into the trap of, especially when building a brand, to focus on the short term, look at quarterly earnings. When really, if you want to build a strong brand, you really should be looking at fostering customer relationships and really building those relationships over time. And that requires a much longer view into the future. And then finally, I would say the other big thing that you need to work on, and we needed to work on too, is really it's a internal business culture that is aimed at understanding that the way, like embracing the way to really win the hearts and minds of customers is really to put them at the center of your business and every day try to make their lives better. So at Bank of America, really the recent financial crisis was the impetus for us to reevaluate our brand strategy. We needed to rebuild trust, and we knew that we needed to reestablish a positive emotional connection with our customers. After the financial crisis in our industry, the financial services industry, that connection was broken, or at least it was severely damaged. So when we took a step back and we really looked at how we could best reestablish trust, is when we came upon this bigger notion of really refocusing on the customer as an individual, communicating with them in a two-way fashion, and treating them as and communicating with them as individuals, not as like an institution talking to just a general customer base. And then really enabling this idea of shared success. when making business decisions. And what that basically means is before making a decision, ask 3 basic questions. How do customers win? How do shareholders win? And how do communities win? And then in early 2013, we communicated our renewed commitment to our customers through a repositioning effort entitled Life's Better When We're Connected. And the story is really about the bank's role in the lives of its customer and really knowing our place in the world. And I have a very quick spot here that I would like to share. I don't know if we could we please run that?
Before they sat down, one more time, just for themselves. Before the last grandchild. Before the first grandchild. Smile. Before Katie, Debbie, Kevin, and Brad. There was a connection that started it all and made the future the wonderful thing it turned out to be. At Bank of America, we know we're not the center of your life, but we'll do our best to help you connect to what is.
So as you saw in the video, really we're placing the needs and experiences at the center of our message, above the products and the features. And we're really trying to deliver a clear message that places customer relationships at the top of our value hierarchy. So once we started, this shift of really moving away from just marketing products to cultivating, customer relationships, it became quickly apparent to us that we needed to update our methods and metrics. There's a lot of different questions that were out there that weren't out there before, such as, which customer mindset metrics were the most important? How do we measure the economic value of brand? How do different media message impact brand? And how do competitive forces impact our brand? And we didn't have answers to these given the current methodologies that we had. We've been using at Bank of America media mix models for years and years, but our media mix models really concentrated on the short run, and they didn't really focus on a lot of the long run impacts of brand and media. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Yin. Yin works for Nina Consulting, and they were very good about adapting the media mix models to help us out.
So in order to answer the questions that BOA has presented to us, we had a couple key questions. We had to find a way to identify base sales, figure out what is brand health and what is the value of brand health, and how customer metrics roll up into that brand health. And most importantly, how does these bank controllable drivers are able to drive these metrics. So we developed a system of modeling techniques that we've put together in order to kind of establish this, in order to measure this. So first thing we did was actually use what we call a DLM, which is the moving base model, to identify the long-term base sales, and in turn figure out how that relates to long-term brand health, functional and emotional drivers, as well as macroeconomic factors. We take that this moving base into the OLS to estimate the short term, but take the base sales into the SCM model to figure out how macro versus and brand health affects base sales. Next, how functional and emotional drivers drive kind of a more upper funnel metrics within brand health. We use Granger causality tests in VAR to figure out that because product differentiation is much more difficult now, that emotional drivers in the financial area has to come first before functional. Next, how does news and PR affect these three metrics? And finally, how does brand media and product media differ in driving these three metrics?
Thank you, Yin. So I definitely talked way too long in the beginning of the speech, and I'm already down to 30 seconds, and I have 3 slides left. So I'm going to go through these really quickly, but if any of you guys have any questions after the presentation, Yin and I do work for drinks, so any questions you have, please come find us. So really quickly, we have the economic value of the brand. And the way to read this chart is LOBs, basically different products that the bank has to offer. We've masked a lot of the data for the purposes of this presentation, and we actually have a lot more details here. But the big finding here is that we're finding that brand has an impact way across all the different LOBs that we have, and that the value is honestly much bigger than paid media. And that's not to say that paid media is also having an effect on brand and whatnot. But just to see it, you can just tell that the importance of brand is there, and it needs to be managed too. Secondly, if I can get this to move. So there's the long-term impact of paid media, which is something that we've been talking about today as well. And we have it broken. Again, you have LOB across the bottom, and you have net present value, which is the way we kind of we add things up within the bank. So paid, brand, and owned are the different media types. Brand is going to be more like CSR, more enterprise type messaging, while paid is going to be more towards, sorry, I'm on the wrong slide again. And product media is going to be more towards like credit cards and whatnot. So you can see here that when you look at the product media versus the brand media, you can see that you're seeing long-term effects for both accounts. And these are only long-term impacts. So when you think about from an optimization standpoint, when you need to take these into account to really understand how to allocate across your different products and your different brands. And honestly, it's going to depend on the line of business that you're really trying to foster. And then finally, it's really the importance of the story and the experience. Building a brand really requires both a positive story and the experience. Functional, experience, with a brand is not enough. You really need that emotional connection with customers. And then really understanding, some of these key brand characteristics. For example, like a brand metric up here would be like consideration, something pretty high level. And then emotional connections would be something around trust. And then functional would be for like the bank would be something like convenience. So really understanding how each of these metrics really impact the bank and the brand can be very important. That's it. Thank you.